Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the RotoWire Soccer DFS show. We are here to discuss Saturday's UCL Champions League final between heavy favorites Manchester City and our plucky Serie A underdogs Inter Milan. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart, and I am joined by, unfortunately, our now former King of the Pitch champion, but still all-around great guy, great player, Ryan Belongia. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Would have been doing better if we did a little better in the King of the Pitch, but at least we have some soccer going on this weekend. Nice contest. But yeah, I'm doing good overall. I mean, disappointing King of the Pitch. We were talking before. I know you were disappointed too, but sometimes that's the way it goes.
Yeah, sometimes he makes some great plays, and then it doesn't matter because Moneyball takes
Yeah,
7 of the top 12 spots. I mean, legendary live final performance for him. I mean, good for him. He's a regular, but also screw him. But
right. I mean, he made, I can't even believe how much money he must have made. Definitely over 250,000, maybe a lot more than that if he played a bunch of smaller field stuff, high stakes that we don't even track. But just insane, all you really needed was Alexander Arnold and Poro, that combination, and pretty much won you everything. And yeah, I got greedy playing a bunch of Samikas, trying to save money with some Matt Target. I mean, just yeah, go the whole year, my whole life playing the best defenders, and then the biggest contest of the year, get greedy and fade Alexander Arnold, try to jam in a bunch of goal scorers. I don't know. It's just
yeah, you try to
lucky. Arsenal. I had a ton of Arsenal. I see somebody saying Arsenal stack. I got fortunate that my one decent lineup got 8th place to eke out a small profit. But I mean, yeah, it was almost a complete disaster.
Well, it was fun for me to be in the contest. I was looking up from 172nd, but it was a tough contest for a lot of people. You had to play TAA and Poro, and look, I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes it just doesn't work out,
Jack,
right?
the first King of the Pitch I ever played in, I had one ticket, and I was so excited. And I faded KDB, who was like 40, I want to say 40%, and he scored like 45 points or something. And I think I finished like close to last or something. But so yeah, sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah, it was fun to be there. Took a rip, tried to get some low owned plays in there. Odegaard and Rashford, and
You
maybe I
did,
thought I
and
could make 10K or more, and I got my $600 min cash. It's
yeah, I
nice
mean,
for
you
me, I
you
guess.
you picked like two of the only guys who didn't score
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
like
how tilting to play Arsenal and they score 5 goals and Odegaard gets like 7 floor points. Rashford even
Yep,
had like 8 floor points. I was like, oh man.
yep. And Bruno scored for Man U, Sancho scored. Obviously Kane and everybody else. Everybody on Liverpool scored. Everybody on Arsenal. Yeah, except your guys.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
It was such a great start too because Kane scored early. I'm in the car with my wife. We're like, Kane, yeah, let's go, let's go. And then I see he's like
Yeah,
40% because he got steamed.
unbelievable. Yeah, I was wrong about that Kane ownership too.
Yeah, whatever. Well, no sense in crying over spilled milk. We are here. We got some great contests. I think there's 20K up top with a 100K purse, 4,500 entrants for the main flagship GPP $25 entry. I've been collecting some tickets for that, so that should be very exciting. But let's actually talk about this Champions League final we have. It's unfortunately a showdown involving Manchester City, which isn't really that fun from a DFS point of view, but we'll try to crack the code and see if there's any angles. Manchester City are about minus 200 favorites. That's 65% to win. Their clean sheet odds seem a little bit high, but I guess it's a cup final, so that kind of those get bumped up a little bit at 43%. I believe that's clean sheets through regular time, but you have to read the fine print. An implied goal total of 2. It's basically projected for on a neutral field Manchester City domination. And Ryan, I was wondering what you thought about these odds because I thought maybe Inter are a little bit better than this. I mean, these aren't huge discrepancies, but I thought Inter might be like 20% to win, and that 5% does make a little bit of a difference. I think these 42% clean sheet odds are rich. I know this is a really liquid market, but I just have my doubts. So what do you think about the odds, Ryan?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we disagree just a little bit. I don't know. Like, to me, it just feels like City are about 50% to keep a clean sheet in this spot. I mean,
Oh,
they're
really?
just City's just, yeah, they dominate everyone. You watch the game and they're gonna have all the possession. At least this is what I think. I guess I've given plenty of teams this season chances against Manchester City, and it just never seems to work out. And like sometimes not even close either. I mean, I'm thinking about the Bayern matchup, Madrid matchup. I mean, these teams just struggle to score and create chances, and City are just so dominant. I mean, look, I know Inter's good. But yeah, no, it's like it's so annoying that we have a city game to talk about for this showdown. I mean, first of all, because they're just so hard to predict. You know, it's so tough to play players against them. And then for the GPP, you end up with more duplicate lineups than any other showdown. I mean, I'm all these city showdowns this year. You make clean sheet lineups like 1-0, 2-0 lineups. I mean, you're duping with so many people and like every combination too. So we got that. Not only is it hard to predict, but then when you do predict it for that route, you're probably going to chop with a bunch of people. So I mean, we'll get into tournaments later, but yeah, I don't know. It's an annoying slate. I don't know. I kind of hope you're right though, about sort of the odds disrespecting Inter. I hope you're right because I think I'm going to play tournaments that way just because I think it makes sense.
Yeah, there's going to be a few ways to play tournaments, and I think we'll talk a little bit more later, but it's just the massive dupe machine. There's so many players that are going to be owned in combination with each other. Like, if you play Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland, like 70% of the field is going to start with those two players. Okay, now you have to beat the rest of the field on a 4v4. Now you play Ederson. I mean, these 1-0 lineups are good, but I've done some Excel studies on these things, and when it's pretty clear targets about who to target for these 1-0 lineups, those three guys get owned a ton in combination. It might not even be like a sneaky thing. Sure, it has that sort of upside when a specific game script happens, but so many people are playing along those lines. So finding smart ways to be a little bit different. I don't know. I'm a sicko, Ryan. I can't handle chopping with 7 people. Like, I would rather just make a pivot. Like, there's a great player in the lobby, Fear My Turtle, and he kind of got screwed in a GPP a month ago because he made a 1v1 just so he left 1,500 salary on the table. A 7 lineup train took down the GPP, but I thought his lineup is better, and you have to feel happy with your equity. And of course, tilted when you finish 7th place for peanuts in these prize structures. But that's kind of my inclination to play these.
Yeah. No, sorry. Turtle got so unlucky. I think that was an Inter showdown. He had Mkhitaryan. He lost by like less than a point only because Mkhitaryan got subbed at half.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm too much of a sicko to try to make all these city clean sheet lineups. Like you were saying, imagine how many lineups are going to have Haaland, KDB, Ederson, and a city defender. I mean, just so many lineups that will start with those four. I mean, it's very difficult to get different.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like, what's the equity of that? It's 20K up top. You're going to chop 10 times. Does that happen enough? And you're flipping all these ridiculous 2v2s? We'll see. But we can dig into it. I do want to talk about some of the lineup news. We have some questionables on Inter, and they've rotated a little bit lately in league play, but we are basically expecting Inter's best 11 to be available. DeMarco has been a little bit fatigued. He's been nursing some knocks, but we're going to expect him to start and do his usual 65 minutes. And then Henrik Mkhitaryan, he picked up a knock as well, but I also think he'll start. He's another guy who gets subbed off at 65 minutes, but he's also the min price. The small bit of news that's worth considering is that it looks like Kyle Walker has had some negative injury developments. So I opened up the blurb, and Pep said that it wasn't great. They want to be very, very careful with him, but there's a chance that Kyle Walker doesn't start. And then we would expect someone like Nathan Ake. Does the absence of Kyle Walker, I mean, maybe that helps DeMarco in a GPP lineup, Brian? Does that really move the needle at all for you? Or is it basically still that he's going to blast off?
Yeah, it'd be a bump to DeMarco. You're right, at least a small bump to DeMarco. Like, maybe he gets an extra cross or two from open play. I don't know, stuff like that. Kyle Walker is a tough matchup for anyone on the left side. Seems like he'll play, but I guess, you never know with Pep, but he's notorious for sort of sandbagging with injury news in the media.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mkhitaryan seems like he's going to go to only 3,000. I don't know. Yeah, I think the lineups we have are probably what you're going to see.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too many surprises. We'll try to figure out inter-sub patterns. I mean, Manchester City barely substitute either, so it feels like I'm pretty confident I'll get 90 or 80 minutes from just about anyone. unless something weird happens like yellow cards. All right, Ryan, your favorite game. We're going to talk about Showdown cash games. So,
Okay.
no,
I
Ryan doesn't play too much Showdown
I don't.
cash.
I've never played Showdown Cash, but this slate it seems pretty simple to break down. But
Yeah, I do too. So maybe I'll try to give my breakdown of how I felt. I wrote an article on the site so you can take a look at that. I think there's some 2v2s that you're going to want to look at. And that's usually what decides these things. But I think Kevin De Bruyne is going to be a pretty obvious captain choice. He'll take at least a partial row on set pieces. He just has a killer floor. He's been crushing it lately. And I just don't think there's enough to be gained from fading Erling Haaland at 11,000. He's minus 190 to score. And when you face these situations in Showdown, oh, Haaland's goal dependent. It's not a classic slate. We don't have like 8 spots to deal with. We only have 6 spots. And when you fade Haaland, you have to ask, what other salary am I getting? And I don't think I'm going to want to play any of these Inter Milan set piece takers. And I'm not sure that, getting to play Ilkay Gundogan and Rodri over like a punt and something else is going to be like something that's going to make up for those points. Haaland's also been flooring lately pretty well. He has one game with a floor below 7 in his last 6 starts, but he's been doing pretty well. 8.5 point floor in the FA Cup final. So I think you just pencil those two in, and then you're going to want to start looking at the mid range. But maybe, Ryan, we can pause there. Do you see any reason in a cash game format to not play KDB in the captain and not just slot in Haaland in the flex spot?
yeah, I wish I could disagree, but definitely not with KDB and the captain. That's just, you can't do anything else. It's just out of the question. Yeah, for everything that you said, his floor is just so much higher than everybody else's, and it's so safe too. Haaland, yeah, probably just gonna play him too. Do I see any reason not to? Well, yeah, the reason not to would be, let's say, if you wanted to play Grealish and Ederson, maybe. I don't think you can fit all those guys. I'm not saying you would want to do that, but maybe some people would think that. Another reason would be, I guess, if you want to spend up for Çalhanoğlu, but you mentioned that seems tough too in this matchup. So yeah, I would captain KDB and then I would play Haaland.
Yeah, so if we're just making that start, look, you can fade Haaland and try to pencil in one of these mid-range guys that we'll talk about, but I'm just not sure that's the best approach. When I've been studying these Showdown contests, the best players are usually playing goal scorers like Haaland in these types of spots. I think you should just mimic that sort of behavior in absence of better information. If you have an edge on something, then go for it. But yeah, let's talk about some of these mid-range options. Ryan, you mentioned unless you wanted to play Ederson and Jack Grealish. Well, I found my dummy lineup does have those two in it, but there are some
Okay.
interesting options in the mid-range. Well, you have to punt twice, so we'll have to talk about
Yeah,
the
I was
merits of
looking at
that.
that lineup. I thought you might throw that lineup at me. I think that's acceptable.
Oh, acceptable. All right, good. I have a C
Yeah.
to start the day. That's good. It can only go up from here. So let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mid-range. So we have Jack Grealish at 8,400. Let me pull up the Manchester City stuff on the cheat sheet. Grealish had a pretty bad matchup in the FA Cup, but Ryan, do you think that was kind of more signal or noise just because he had a matchup against Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's been pocketing wingers all season in the Premier League?
Yeah, I saw you put that in your article, and that was nice because, yeah, I think that's exactly why. That had a lot to do with it, I should say. I mean, it's a very tough spot, Grealish against Wan-Bissaka. I mean, it's basically the toughest matchup Grealish is going to have to put up floor points. It's tougher to draw fouls against him. It's tougher to get shots off. It's tougher to get crosses off. I mean, just everything. So yeah, I agree with that. Grealish seems like a better option here. I assume so. You're talking about putting in Grealish and Ederson, and then that leaves you with what 332 3,100 per spot. So I mean, I'm sort of skipping around here, but put in Mkhitaryan, obviously, and then what? Only Acerbi? Are those the 2 punts you're talking about?
Yeah, you can play that. Those are kind of the most
Okay, you
expensive
can
viable
play that,
options.
right? So I guess you want to debate the merits of Ederson, but I don't know. I was looking at that lineup you have, and if you swap in Gundogan for Grealish, I mean, it leaves you a much better option at 4,600, either Onana or Rodri. I don't know. At least that 2v2 is debatable in my opinion.
That is a very compelling 2v2. Can you get Rodri if you swap off
exactly right. I
It
mean,
fits like a
it's
glove.
the same salary. Gundogan and Rodri cost the same as Grealish and Acerbi. So I mean, you
Well,
kind of
I
it seems
famously
like it
cannot. Yeah, okay, Rodri. I thought Rodri was 4,800. Yeah, so
seems
that
like a
does
better
work out.
2v2 to me. Um, but also like it's worth debating Rodri or Onana. I don't. I'd be interested to. That's an interesting decision to me. I wonder what like the sharp players would do there. Dump.
Um,
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
it's tough to predict what the sharp players do with opposing goalkeeper. I find that I'm a little bit more willing to do it than other than other players, and I'm just more willing to embrace the variance. But I think his median projection is Onana's median projection has to be quite good in this matchup. You have to expect that City will take some shots from distance, but I mean, and they'll have 60% possession. I want to interrupt myself. Do City really take inefficient shots that often? That's not something I've really looked into, but like I remember Luis Pacheco, he was once saying how he'd been playing the opposing goalkeeper against Manchester City all season, and he'd been getting wrecked because they had been so efficient in front of goals. Do you really think that City are going to be the type of team to take enough shots from distance, like a Real Madrid, that would make it worth playing Onana? Or are they going to be maybe probe a little bit more and take higher, expected goal chances?
Um, well, I played Courtois against City in the last round, and he had like 6 saves in the first half. I remember. I mean, KDB is going to rip long shots. Rodri is going to rip a couple. They might make them. Gundogan would. I don't know.
Mm,
No, that does happen with City sometimes. It seems like it happened more in the past, but no, I'm not really thinking about it too much. Like I just think about City are gonna still get a lot of shots. Maybe
yeah.
but you just gotta hope Onana saves the really good opportunities they have, I guess.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of noise, but when there's high shot volume, there's always a chance for high save volume. And you kind of have to like Onana as a floor play when he's so cheap at 4,400. So I think one player I was interested in hearing your thoughts on was talking about Ilkay Gundogan. So he's been in really good goal scoring form lately. He got a brace in the FA Cup final, and he's just been doing quite well lately. And he was pretty popular in cash as well in that FA Cup final. I find his range of outcomes to be pretty undesirable in comparison to Jack Grealish because you're looking at a more bimodal distribution. What I mean by this is he's going to score 5 points quite often, and he's going to score like 13 points quite often. There's going to be a bit of a gap. Like he's not going to hit the 7 point median projection that often. Someone like Jack Grealish, I feel like he's going to be a little bit more tightly projected in his range of outcomes. He's going to have a lot of 8 to 10 point performances. Um, it just feels like it might be a little bit sick to count on a goal from Ilkay Gundogan because that's basically what you're counting on. I don't really think he has that fantastic a floor in this matchup. Maybe you disagree, but what do you perceive as Ilkay Gundogan's range of outcomes looking like, Ryan?
I think you broke it down perfectly. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. Bimodal, was that the word?
Bimodal, yeah.
Yeah. Grealish has a nice, safe, high floor, and you're right. Gundogan really doesn't. Um, is it worth? Would that be worth playing a Serbi over Rodri or Onana? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But also, I just looked at if you don't want to do that, you can captain Grealish, and it leaves you 4,600.
Yeah,
And
I've seen some good players do this if
so,
they're not afraid to captain Grealish instead of Kevin De Bruyne, and that does help you improve the punt options. That
well,
seems
if you
pretty enticing.
it does seem pretty enticing. So like you think about it, you know, if Grealish scores 10 points and KDB scores 20 points, you're down by 5. Can you make that up with Rodri or Onana over a Serbi? Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. But also, maybe the gap isn't 10 points between KDB and Grealish. I don't know. That's the stuff you got to weigh, I guess. I think it's okay if you feel pretty good about Grealish. I think it's okay. So yeah, maybe KDB lock captain. Maybe I'll take that back. If Grealish is a really good play, that means he's a fine captain as well.
Yeah, and it would just be because you do think that you get that 5 points extra juice out of out of Rodri over someone like a Serbi. But a Serbi, I feel like, has a pretty okay floor for someone who's 3,200. I feel like he's a little bit cheap. So I'm going to pull up his game log just for a moment. I mean, we're breaking down Showdown, so these are the things you have to do. You kind of have to get a bit in the weeds. But one thing I noticed in his game log that I like, he gets some shots. I think he's kind of a set piece target in that end. He doesn't commit too many fouls, which a lot of these punt center backs often are committing fouls, and you're just totally like if one of these punt center backs gets a yellow card, it's absolutely over for you. Um, so
Yeah.
you can't do
Mm.
that, and it looks like he doesn't profile as someone who gets a lot of yellow cards. I don't know. It
Well,
seems acceptable to me. These inter center backs get forward more often than usual, and that's why I don't want to pay for Rodri. Like if Rodri gets 5 points and a Serbi gets 3 points, I'm gonna be mad I didn't play a Serbi because I feel like
yeah, in that case, I would be too. But I would say, um, so all the stuff you said about a Serbi and Inter center backs, they haven't played City yet. Do they get
that's
forward
fair.
against City? You know what? He doesn't commit a lot of fouls. He hasn't marked Haaland yet. Um, I would be sort of worried about those things. I mean, I think a yellow, if he's going to be the main guy, I think with Haaland too. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I think a yellow card is absolutely on the table. But no, I hear you. If he was going to score, also on the table might be interceptions and might be fouls drawn. He can draw some fouls against Haaland for sure. So, if he's going to get 3 points and Rodri's going to get 5, then yeah, I agree with you. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good luck.
he doesn't have 20-point upside like Onana.
Yes, and Onana can really, really bail you out at 4,400. That's kind of that's the thing I don't want to give up. I really don't want to play a Rodri in this type of situation at 4,600. I feel like he just scores 3 or 4 points so often, and that's just not a big enough advantage from what I'm thinking that a Serbi can do. But man, Onana
I
can
mean, it
just
wasn't that
blow a
long
Serbi
ago.
out of the water.
It wasn't that long ago when you were like telling me about Rodri's double-digit floor or something in some
Oh,
Showdown
geez.
video like a few months ago.
Well,
Maybe my memory, maybe that was Adam. I don't know, but no, I agree.
no, I
Um,
remember pounding the table for this. I was just looking at his game logs, and for Roger, you're hoping that you can project a shot. Maybe it gets on target, and you're really happy. He's not crossing at all. Maybe he creates a chance, and then you're hoping that he doesn't commit too many fouls. I mean, Roger's a guy who can get into trouble with committing fouls quite frequently, so that hurts his projection a little bit. So I don't know. You get one shot, one chance created. Let's say it's on target. That's you're looking at 3 points, and then you get a couple of defensive accruals. It's just tough for me to see the route past 6 points for
yeah,
Rodri unless he just starts shooting like a lot from distance, and that just doesn't feel like a very, within one standard deviation of the median type of outcome.
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he does offer a little bit of upside. I mean, we see him score
Yeah,
a range of goals. He's good at headers on corner kicks too, not just long shots. But I mean,
yeah.
but I hear you.
It's tough. I think is the main point. There's merits to both sides of these
It's tough.
constructions.
Rodri's going to finish with, like you said, he's going to score one or 2 points sometimes as well.
Yeah, and he'll be like a popular tournament option as well. I think. Just thinking from that point of view. But these are the types of decisions you have to make. I think, Ryan, if we can just recap cash, I think the dominant construction is going to be someone like Kevin De Bruyne, and then you pair him with Haaland just because of his high goal scoring odds. We're not really going to look at the inter set piece takers because they split set pieces, and DeMarco's not going to be on the field the entire time. Hakan might just get played out of this game. He might not have any open play value, and he might not get enough set pieces. So they feel rich and kind of choose, two of Gundogan, Ederson, Grealish, and then, base that off of the punts. You're looking at punt decisions of like an Acerbi or a Mkhitaryan versus an Onana or Rodri. And
Yeah.
weighing that is going to be the difference between being a long-term winner and a long-term slight loser in the Showdown Cash contest. So have fun.
I just wanted, I just a question from Ozzy. Dumfries is a good defender too. Question mark. Yeah, I assume talking about Grealish up against Dumfries. We were talking about up against Wan-Bissaka. No, I wish I could give a more informed opinion on that. I think he's a pretty good defender, not Wan-Bissaka. but not nearly. It's not going to. I wouldn't expect a matchup like against Real Madrid when. Just Carvajal has nothing to offer for Grealish, and it's just an amazing matchup that City are going to just try to target all game. I don't think it's that type of matchup. I think Dumfries is capable, but to be honest, I haven't watched Inter really outside the Champions League, so I'm not really sure, but something to think about.
Yeah, I think one weird thing I noticed in the semifinal when Rafael Leao in the second leg came back, I know Dumfries man marked him tactically. I was grinding the tape.
Yeah,
I was watching the above the
yeah.
stadium camera, and the announcers pointed it out, and it was true. Dumfries kind of was tactically
That
flexible and was man marking Leao. Maybe that happens
I
to
mean,
Grealish.
I mean that's marking Leao. It doesn't get much tougher than that. That's exactly something you would want to look at.
Yeah, so I don't want to play Dumfries necessarily, just given how I think the game script's going to go. He's a guy who can collect a lot of fouls. He doesn't have like the offensive upside. I remember Dumfries was fantastic in the Euro a few years ago. You could play him as a defender, and he was just like marauding down the wing. But he's just not that player anymore.
Yeah,
His
no,
presence is interesting, but not just playing him.
no, I don't. I don't definitely don't want to play him. But the first thing I thought of was Ozzy's question. Like the first thing I thought of, like when I'm thinking, do I want to play Grealish or Gundogan? Yeah, I was weighing the matchup with Dumfries.
Yep, I mean, so that you might have to nick down Grealish's projection a little bit too if they try to target Grealish directly like that. But I mean, if it's more generic setup, then I feel a bit more okay. But it's something in the range of outcomes and it's worth considering, especially if you don't want to play Grealish in a tournament. You just assume that Dumfries pockets him. Okay, that's a route that you can start. You can start going down. Do we have any other thoughts on cash? I don't. It's just good luck on these final 2v2s, I think. But I think we have the construction nailed down for the people.
I would, yeah, I would. I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck. It's Showdown cash, so you're kind of like flipping
I
slightly
mean, sure.
weighted
If
coins.
if if someone's insistent on playing Çalhanoğlu or DeMarco, I think it's pretty clearly Çalhanoğlu. I just want to say that for cash.
Oh, that's I
I I thought maybe that would get a little surprise from you.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't necessarily agree as
okay,
the reason the
nice.
minutes.
Well, that's part of it, but also, um, I would expect him to take the majority of set pieces. And I think people just go in thinking split. Um, and it's backed up by the recent logs. I mean, if you look at that, I'm looking at it right now. DeMarco's taken one set piece. I mean, in 6 of his last 8 games, only one. And I just having watched the last few Champions League matches for Inter, Çalhanoğlu is running over to the left side plenty. And then it's not just that. Just from what he's one of the best corner kick takers I've seen, Çalhanoğlu,
Hmm.
just putting in amazing balls. And Inter scored off at least one of them. I mean, Dzeko scored off that one. They had another header, I remember, off the crossbar, maybe a couple more. Not that DeMarco's bad, but I mean, that if I was to play an Inter guy for set pieces or for a floor, I favor Çalhanoğlu just based off what I've seen in those recent numbers. And then the
Yeah,
minutes, yeah.
he does
I
play
mean,
more
look, I
minutes.
mean, maybe I'm looking at too much, but look, yeah, you have it up right now. One
Hmm.
set piece for DeMarco, only more than 2 one time in a match where they had 12. There's no way they're going to get 12 in this match. So, I mean,
That's
yeah, I
um
don't know.
that's a good inside baseball take right there. I think I would change my mind. I don't want to play DeMarco anymore, and I'm not sure I don't want to play either of these guys in cash, but that sounds important. One thing that I noticed, and this is maybe getting a little bit too in the weeds, delving on the Giga brain, Inter had a penalty and it was VAR disallowed, but Hakan had the ball. It wasn't Lautaro. And this maybe you can kind of throw this into the Hakan pile. He's taken one penalty this season, and he took it back in November. And Lautaro was on the field. The game was a rout against like Sassuolo or something. But that's one thing where if you have like a 10% shot that he takes a penalty if he gets it, so you can kind of keep that little nugget in the back of your pocket.
That's
But it
very
does seem
interesting.
It does seem like the set pieces are. It's a little bit too gigabrain. Don't bring this into your cash mentality. That shouldn't affect like the median outcome that much. But like I feel like he maybe has some outs thinking about tournaments now. You've kind of made me want to play Hakan a bit more than DeMarco in
Oh yeah, it's a
GPP
good
style.
transition to tournaments. I brought that up because I brought that up for tournaments because on some lineups where I'm going to play an intercept piece guy, I'm going to choose Çalhanoğlu over DeMarco. Yeah, I just think
Hmm.
it makes sense for all those reasons I said, for the minutes, like you said, and especially if Kyle Walker starts, like it's just going to be really hard for DeMarco to get there, assuming he gets subbed off, which you have to think he would.
Yeah, DeMarco will probably get subbed off at the 60th minute mark. It doesn't seem like he's fit at all for 90 minutes. And this thing can go into extra time as well. And extra time does affect my thinking in these knockout matches because if I can have a guy who goes like 65 minutes and if the game goes 120, you're basically playing a guy who's doing 45. And we would laugh at playing, even mid-price Pedro Neto in cash going 45 minutes. So that has to play
Yeah,
some part of the calculus as well.
and maybe some of these corner numbers are because of the minutes. DeMarco gets subbed off and then he's not there to split them with Çalhanoğlu anymore. But you know what? They're likely to have more corners in the second half chasing the game anyways than they will in the first half, at least in my opinion.
That does make sense, and that's what Ozzy's saying. They split corners before DeMarco got subbed off, but you do really
So yeah,
feel like
maybe
they
they'll
featured.
split. Maybe they'll split the two that they get in the first half, and then after that,
Then Hakan takes 4 or something
yeah,
at the very
yeah.
end. That's pretty interesting. So, just thinking from a tournament point of view, I mean, like one move that you can make, you can take this dominant construction we talked about in cash. You can just say, well, instead of Grealish, I'm going to play Hakan, and oh, there we go. Now I have this. You don't play Ederson in that lineup just because you want outs to a goal. Do you think something like that's enough, or do you want to get a little bit more off the board in that type of game script? When you're playing someone, let's just say you're playing a tournament lineup and you have KDB and Holland, and then you play a Çalhanoğlu. Um, how would you want to approach the rest of your? I don't want to. This is like a question almost, but like, what type of things do you consider when you're kind of completing that lineup? Do you just want to play the best plays after that? Is Hakan going to be low owned enough, or are you going to try to look for a little extra something there?
Um, yeah, it's a tough question. Well, I want to think of the scenarios that construction will be optimal. Um, like, is Hakan going to be in the winner just based on floor? Maybe he could be like in a 1-2 nothing game. I don't know. That's a construction, but then you would still want to have Ederson. Is that going to be super chalky though? Like that those four? Can you fit that? KDB, Haaland, Çalhanoğlu, Ederson.
Well, then you're playing a Serbian Mkhitaryan. There's only one lineup with that, so it's going to be duped
Right.
in a
Okay.
4,500 person field.
Unless you captain Ederson. Okay. Yeah. So I would never play that lineup. That with Mkhitaryan, and then you can only make that one lineup. I see that. Okay. Unless of course Aki and Laporte start, or then that lineup would be duped. Oh no, Ruben Diaz is there. You can make that lineup. Sorry, I didn't.
There's not many combinations though at the tail.
Sorry, yeah, I'm going off on like a weird tangent. Yeah, I don't know, Jack. I would pair Çalhanoğlu with like Onana or Bastoni then as one of the next pieces, I think.
Yeah, I know Ozzy's been saying something in the chat that Bastoni seems to cross the ball quite a lot for a center back. I completely agree. Bastoni is very happy to get forward and attack. He's a more attacking minded center back. And if you're looking to get a little bit different in your punt spots, he costs a little bit more than the min price and he's below Rodri, but he does offer some type of, good scoring outcomes, especially if Inter have to chase the game in the last 25 minutes. I could see Bastoni getting up to a 6 point floor, and he might be the highest scoring floor point in this under 5K region. And you're thinking about that. That sounds pretty good to me. So I do like a Bastoni type
Definitely, yeah.
option
I
right
mean,
now.
Bastoni is. I mean, he's got to be. He's one of the best attacking center backs in the world. I mean, yeah, mentioned in chat, he loves to cross. He loves to cross. He's also big and athletic. He's like 6'4". He's good in the air. Yeah, I'm a big Bastoni fan, especially in games where the rest of his team doesn't have a high floor, so it doesn't take as much to to get there or be optimal in a lot of times for a cheaper salary. Yeah, I like that. Again, like I don't know, it's hard for to specifically answer your question, but like I'll be looking to get different, I guess is the
Yeah.
answer. I'll be looking to avoid dupes. I mean, how are you thinking about doing that?
The way I want to avoid dupes in this tournament, I'll have 6 tickets in it. Uh, my main approach is just going to be leaving a lot of salary on the table. I think this is a move that people are still somewhat reluctant to do.
Hmm.
And there are opportunities to leave a lot of salary on the table because there's a big gap in this 7K to 5K region. If you look at the players priced in this range, it's just not particularly inspiring. There's one player I like in that range, and he's more of a contrarian tournament option. But below Gundogan, you have Dzeko, who's just like a total tournament dart. It's goal or bust at like plus 350 goal scoring odds. So I mean, that's an option. We can talk about constructions like that. You have Dumfries, who I don't want to play. I don't want to play John Stones. Rodri kind of has a thin range of outcomes. And then you have like Walker, and then you have like these very low range guys. But everyone below 7K and above 4,500, I consider this gross outside of Nico Barea. And Ryan, every time I was making these lineups and I unplug Haaland and I put in some player from Inter, I was just being funneled into playing a ton of Nico Barea. So what do you think about lineups where you do a KDB captain, which is the best captain play, then you can play Grealish, and then you can play someone like a goal scorer on Inter, you can play Hakan, and then you can throw in a Nico Barea and then finish the rest of your lineup. Um, do you see that? Do you see Nico Barea getting steamed because he's the only viable candidate in that gap range, or do you still think that that'll be a pretty good construction? Because that's one thing that
That
I'm looking at that I quite like.
that's an interesting question. Yeah, do I see him getting steamed? Because he's the only one there. I mean, maybe slightly, but
It can't be too much, right?
it
Like
can't
he's
be too
Inter.
much because people are gonna just look at it and think, "Oh, I don't want to pay 6,200."
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, a few people just for what you said. No, I like that call though. Barella's a guy. He's as likely to score as anyone. I mean, I know that's not the case, but in a spot against City where there's going to be limited chances, yeah, that's the way I look at it. At least if I'm building a tournament lineup, Barella can score goals in this spot. He can come up with assists. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
I was thinking too, one remark you said about like if Hakan or just any player can just get there on floor alone. And how many players really have an outstanding floor for Manchester City? It's not many actually, right? Holland doesn't have I
No,
mean, De Bruyne has a great floor, but a lot of these players can just score five or less. And I'm shrugging my shoulders. I'm not particularly surprised. Maybe Grealish. Grealish is like a second tier option,
yeah,
and no one else necessarily has any floor associated to them. And for that reason, I'm willing to also in tournaments, just if I put Kevin De Bruyne captain and I play a Holland, I'm willing to just avoid the rest of the Manchester City middle priced options. And this is one way where I can hopefully avoid a lot of like combinatorial ownership, something, players owned highly in combination with each other. Um, so
no, I think yeah, I'm with you on that, and I do. I think it's possible. It's possible for Chalanoglu to score like 10 floor points. I know, it's not a great spot, but it's totally possible.
yeah,
And I like making like that is because I still like to make. I'm not going to have a ton of them, but I'm still going to make a few of my favorite City clean sheet lineups, like 1-0, 2-0 build. Maybe that I think aren't going to be duped a crazy amount of times. And sometimes in these spots against City, yeah, it's to play the expensive set piece taker against them. People don't like to do that. I feel like they'd rather have a Grealish or a Haaland or Gundogan, or whoever.
hmm
So yeah, I think I don't know. I guess I think like Chalanoglu. I don't think he'll be that popular, and
no.
maybe a good way of saying it is maybe maybe he gets there on floor more often than his ownership dictates that he will.
This is what I'm wondering. And there's some noise in the chat. Hakan doesn't offer much taking set pieces, and we're kind of talking about like 80th percentile outcomes here. We're talking that most of the City players don't really achieve a floor outside of two obvious targets. And I mean, how often does that happen? It's really tough to estimate, but I can see it happening, and you can see Hakan getting up to 10 points chasing the game. I mean, he could get there on floor alone. You could make robust lineups where he can win if he gets up to a floor, and then you don't play him with Aderson, for example, so you allow him to benefit from an assist and a goal as well.
Yeah, like I think this guy is right. He doesn't offer much of a floor. That's why like he's not like a great player. We're not excited to play him, but it's possible. And if he's not going to be that popular, I mean, like he drew 5 fouls against fouls against AC Milan last time. He's just I'm not saying he's just going to be out there for 90 minutes. He's got a wicked shot on him. He's great at putting corners in. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean,
no, I don't think he's a good play. If I was playing just against myself or trying to make an optimal lineup, then I'm going to leave Hakan out. But he could get there.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about playing bad plays who 10% of the time are the guy you need. this is how
Right.
Showdown works. We have to talk about how likely we have to estimate these tail outcomes somewhat accurately. And it's tough. I mean, it's a gross play, it's a bad play. We're doing our favorite thing talking about the bad plays, but I mean, this is kind of what we're left with. I do like that option. Ryan, you were talking about playing a clean sheet, a 1-0 lineup. I like those. You can still do Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, and Aderson, and you can just avoid this mid-range entirely, and you can just leave a ton of salary on the table. I think that'll be an acceptable way to construct those.
Yeah, like
as well.
Oh, sorry. Maybe you just said this, but like if you have a KDB captain lineup that also has Grealish, you could just make it Grealish captain instead of KDB.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
No, that's not what I necessarily.
But then
that's
you end up
option.
leaving like a bunch of salary. People don't like. One or two people do that, but not many.
No, I mean that's a great tactic. If it's a good lineup, if you have a big portfolio and you like Jack Grealish, you can make a bunch more lineups just by swapping those two. And whatever you lose in
Yeah.
projection, you're going to gain in relative value and
Yeah,
ownership.
I'm just thinking about other outcomes. Like I know Hakan normally doesn't have a floor, and these opponents of City normally don't have a floor. But think about some of the stuff we've seen recently, like guys on Bournemouth putting up 15 floors against Man City, the Leicester a couple games ago, and I mean, just imagine them having a 1-0 lead, trying to hold on to the Champions League. I mean, it's going to be some nervy stuff. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's just a lot of different ways this can go, and you don't want to like if you're playing tournaments, especially, you don't want to be too narrow-minded.
No, I agree, and I don't think it's too gigabrain to think that Manchester City have 57% possession. They scored early, and they're kind of just letting Inter have a little bit more of the ball. Manchester City have played this way before in huge matchups. Like they lost time of possession battle against Bayern. They dominated that game, but they conceded a lot of possession to Bayern. These aren't outrageous outcomes, and I think I'm just echoing your sentiments. Some of these guys flooring a little bit more. Manchester City not pushing in the last 30 minutes. If you assume these types of things happen, I think you can build some pretty unique lineups that aren't terrible, that aren't, finishing in last place a ton of the time. That's kind of the name of the game.
Jack, how much Bernardo Silva are you going to play?
Oh my God. So I can't stand Bernardo Silva, but I think I will dabble some in him because there's some fun lineups that you can play if Manchester City dominate, but Haaland doesn't score. This can totally happen, especially if Manchester City score 2 goals early. Then they're just not going to feel forced to play to Haaland. He'll just draw a couple of follows from a Serbi because he's backing into him. But yeah, I like unplugging Haaland, and then you can play like Bernardo Gundogan. You can just play the whole squad of Manchester City, then and just hope the entire offense goes through them and Inter does nothing. I think that's a kind of reasonable approach. I think it's not going to be duped too much because you don't have Haaland. I mean, Haaland's going to be like 60 to 70%. So if you don't play him, you can kind of do whatever you want. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, we all, everybody feels the same way about Silva. For the most part, we don't like to play him. And then you see what happens sometimes. He's the lowest owned City guy and breaks the slate. In the first leg against, that was the second leg against Madrid. We saw a brace from him. I'm just looking at his game log. First matchup against Barcelona, he had a goal and an assist. I mean, it's just Yeah, I don't know. I bring it up because he's so tilting. Um,
Yeah, I think someone in the Discord, Mo Hendy, he was talking about trauma-based lineup building, and
that's what it is. Yeah, that's a great word for it.
I mean, he's a fine play. He's going to be on the field for most of the game for Manchester City. He's going to be like 16%.
Do you remember that
Objectively,
game?
it's
There was
fine.
yeah. Oh yeah, I see. Here it is. The game against West Ham. He had like 10 crosses in the first half. I remember
Oh
thinking,
my,
what is going on? He finished with 11 crosses. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah. I mean,
I
CA
don't want to
Premium
play
saying
him,
that.
but
I don't want to play him either. I play like 20 lineups, and I don't want to have like two Bernardo Silva lineups.
I
I feel
know.
like that's a situation where maybe like if Bernardo was a little bit underpriced but still is going to get overlooked, then I'd make like half my lineups with him. But I'd rather just explore my other ideas fully and not just play Bernardo Silva because I'm going to be tilted if he scores. I mean, we're going to be on a 2 month break after this, but there's always going to be another soccer DFS slate, so I'll comfortably fade him. I think, especially at 7,800. I mean, that's expensive. Like it's a pay up to be contrarian spot at that point. He's not even a bargain. Um, so I think that all plays into me being more reluctant to play him. Um, Maybe we can start. We've been 45 minutes. Maybe we can start galbraining a little bit. We've talked about a lot of ideas, and I think this is kind of how you want to template your thinking. Like we spent a lot of time talking about Hakan, but you can think about Lautaro as well for 9,200. Right? Does he score at all? That feels too expensive to me. I'd rather play someone like an Edin Dzeko. But Ryan, are you going to be building any lineups with our good friend Romelu Lukaku at 8,800? Almost guaranteed to sub on at the 65th minute. And if you have a lineup where you think that Manchester City are winning, you can just pluck him in there. Would you rather have 1% Romelu Lukaku for 30 minutes or 15% Lautaro for 65 for 90 minutes?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played a sub against Manchester City. So, it's hard, but I want to. Like, and it's for the scenario that you said, City winning and, Lukaku coming on to score the equalizer or to pull one back. Yeah, I've thought about it. And just because, I don't want to talk, I didn't want to talk about subs on this show, playing subs on this show, but like I'm just drawn to it even more because it's a City showdown. Everything we mentioned with the dupes and with just it's already so hard to predict and it's already sort of like a lottery. So yeah, I would want to play subs, but it's extra hard for this slate because for City you have Mahrez, Foden, Alvarez. I mean, maybe you have a take of who's getting subbed on from those guys, but I mean, I don't think anyone could really have a take because Pep's just so unpredictable.
Yeah, I don't think you can play any subs that are wearing a Manchester City shirt. You're basically just saying, do I think that Romelu Lukaku gets a penalty in the last 30 minutes and somehow it ties the game up?
yeah.
I think that's the only
Um,
sub goal viable option.
so it's just really hard to play subs here, which is annoying because in general, with such big money for first, they're such a good play. I mean, I know we've talked about it plenty, but yeah. So I don't know. What do you? Yeah,
I
I don't
think
know.
I
I
think I'll
guess
throw in a Lukaku sub. I'm a sicko. I mean, it would be so
I
sick if it worked. I have to do it at least once.
yeah. I will too. Obviously, I'm just not going to recommend it for other people.
Yeah,
You got to think like 8,800 is annoying too, and like if he
yeah.
scores a goal, like he's going to have might finish with 12, 13 points in this spot. Now that could definitely be enough. Like, yeah, it's just so
Well, I
tough.
mean, if City score 3 goals, it's probably not going to be enough. I mean, there's a chance that it's not enough. You're kind of it
But
has to be a bit of
yeah,
a 1-0.
or maybe he outscores. Maybe no one else on Inter has like above six points or something, and it's just a big enough
So he's
difference.
the only Inter player that you throw
Maybe
in.
something like that, or like yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Um,
man. It's tough. Like you said, trying to galaxy brain stuff. It's because this showdown sucks. Like, just if this wasn't the Champions League final, like I hate this showdown.
it's
I
pretty.
hate City showdowns and Inter too. Like, just Inter on their own are so tough. For their set piece guys, for their forwards with no floor. Like, I don't know, man. It's just like the number one thing, at least for me, is gonna be just trying to get unique and like a higher percentage of my lineups will be worried about dupes
Yeah.
than usual.
It's just gross. There's not much fun that you can have. Like I will throw in a few Onana captains, but I mean that's just me thinking that Onana captain is going to be like 2% and he should be 6%. It's not a particularly enjoyable thing to do. It's just something I I robotically I robotically take part in. Um, and hopefully I can
Yeah.
find the right Inter goal scorer. I don't know, maybe a couple points we can touch on quick before we go. Lautaro at 9,200 just seems too rich. I'd rather take a shot on Edin Dzeko, even if he's going to be subbed early. Do you have a take there?
Um. No, not really. I mean, what's their ownership going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Lautaro. They're probably both going to be cheap, low owned.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you there.
Oh, you don't? What do you think it's going to
No,
be?
no. So, no, just that I'd rather play. You said you'd rather play Jacko. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I get
Maybe. I
the
mean, maybe I'm
reasoning.
wrong. Just
No,
because
I
of the
mean,
salary thing.
yeah, because of his salary for sure.
But maybe the field thinks that. I mean, Lautaro is definitely pay up to be contrarian. He probably is the penalty taker. I know I sowed some seeds of discontent, but I mean, if there's a penalty in 20% of games, that seems
Also, if
like a
he
pretty
scores
good
a
deal.
goal, if he scores a goal, there's a good chance he's finishing with 20 points. So, I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. Look, he's most likely to score for Inter. So I'll play some Lautaro.
Yeah, why not sprinkle it in? A lot of these things are easier to do once you fade Haaland as well. Um,
Right, right. So that's the other thing. I guess we sort of skipped that. I mean, yeah, this is with fading Haaland.
yeah, I mean, it's almost it's boring to talk about fading Haaland, right? Because it's like 55 to 60% of the time he's going to score a goal, and the field's going to play him, and he's going to be chalk, and you're probably screwed if he scores a goal. And it's very annoying, but that's just how it is. I don't mind embracing that variance. I think he's going to be like 65% owned, especially given the salary dynamics on this slate. It's like, do you want to pay up for Hakan? Do you want to play up for Lautaro? It's just like you're kind of funneled into playing Holland. So I think that's going to juice his ownership numbers a little bit more. That just makes me more inclined to fade him and, just hope I don't end up on the short side of the stick. The fortunate thing about having all of these city showdowns is we can just keep on fading Holland until we go broke.
Man, yeah, it's cost me a bunch this year. Um, I don't know. Yeah, what else can we say about it? Like all year, all we talk about is to fade Haaland or not. It's the
Yeah.
same thing here.
I mean, you just have to build lineups that are good when Holland scores if you play him, and they're good if he doesn't score if you don't play him, and just keep playing and hope you don't go hope you don't
Do
go
you
broke.
think people will play Onana in Haaland lineups?
I think people don't play that enough as it is. I don't concern myself with because that's negative correlation, and I feel like that type of thing is underowned. I will do it. I don't think a lot of people are going to be willing to do that, especially if you have like a Holland captain, because he probably has to floor a little bit. He probably has to have a few more shots on target. I'm actually a bit more inclined to play Onana in those situations, maybe foolishly, but I
No,
think they
I
kind
don't
of have
think so.
they have like a weird, they're negatively correlated, but they can win together in these weird set of ways, and I think that's worth embracing at the roster shift
Definitely,
that you get.
definitely. Yep, I agree.
All right.
I'll be doing the same thing. The other, we're talking galaxy brain stuff. Like even like on an Onana captain, like I think you can even play Haaland, De Bruyne. It sounds weird, but I don't
Oh,
know.
I've won a GPP doing this when City were set to throttle Everton. I did Pickford, and then I played five people on the. I played five City guys on the other side. It was just a total barrage, but that can
Right.
win. That's. I feel like that's not the perfect setup. I think last time I won with that was like Germany, Japan. Like Germany was just chasing the entire game against like a clearly
Yeah.
inferior Japan. That
No,
seems
you're
a little
right.
rich, but you can still do something like that. I think you have the
You
salary for it, so.
right. You're right. Yeah, I almost don't even want to say it, but I was thinking also in even a lineup where Haaland scores a goal.
Oh yeah, you don't need the clean sheet to hold whatsoever. Like you just need enough floor, and you need to. I think the thesis would be like maybe Inter go up early, and then City can still win 2-1, and that lineup can. I think that lineup has a chance still if City are barraging with enough shots.
Right. The thesis is about cheap captain. Like, I guess it could be anyone. I guess I'm throwing out the cheap captain for tournaments. You know,
Yeah,
if you get the one guy that can score even 10 points, it might allow, it might allow you to, if KDB scores 20, Haaland scores 20, Lautaro scores 20, that sort of thing.
yeah,
You could have a winner where maybe Onana scores 8 as the captain. I don't know. It is possible. It's tough,
yeah.
but
It's weird and it's fringe, and you shouldn't overinvest in it. But I think it is possible, and you can fit more expensive guys than other people. And we know that goalkeepers can just get stupid floors
like
fairly randomly with a
I'm
high enough
looking for
frequency.
fringe stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Onana can do something like that, you know, 6 to 10% of the time. I'm just making this up. I'm doing a rough estimate, but he's not going to be rostered for that type of outcome. So I think it's worth taking a crack at it. All right. I think that's going to be about it. We have Mo Hendy's in the chat. What's up, Mo? He says Onana Mickey versus Rodri Acerbi. Maybe we'll finish with his question, but I like Onana Mickey more than Rodri Acerbi. Maybe that's a bit more volatile, but I think it projects better.
No, yeah, I like Onana Mickey for sure. But wouldn't that also be Rodri or Mickey?
Um, I have no
I mean,
idea.
I no, I think Rodri is more expensive than. So yeah, I would just not even. I would play Mickey over a Serbi, I guess is what I'm saying. So it'd
Yeah,
be Onana plus Mickey or Rodri plus Mickey.
I see. Yeah. Well, I like the Onana side either way, just because I like playing opposing goalkeepers. I can't help myself. Oh, all right. Well, let's call it. It was 55 minutes. It was a Galbrainer's delight. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to everyone in the chat for living it up in there. Do we have anything to plug? I mean, rotowire.com/chat. If you're not in the Discord, there's always a lot of good discussion, especially if you play MLS or anything. Usually, me, Mo is in there, Bear's in there. People are chatting it up. So it's a fun place to hang out if you're one of the 12 people that plays MLS DFS. So please come join us. But I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. I hope I win the GPP, so good luck getting second place. Otherwise, I hope it's a friend of the show. And yeah, we'll see you all in August, hopefully. But good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.